friend with us, Hassan. Pleasure to meet you.
Hey everyone, pleasure to meet you all.
How's your day going?
It's going well. It's going great.
Excellent.
How about your day? I mean,
Oh, I can't
what-
complain. Well, I can, but
It's
we
not worth it. No, we get to meet all these cool people today. It's really a lot of fun to talk about, sustainability, to especially to take part in this kind of an Earth Day celebration from Amazon here, and how people can, use the cloud. So it's really,
we
it's
got our
really kind of
first
fun.
audience dad joke of the day. It's the
All right.
difference between weather and climate. You can't weather a tree, but you could climb it. Oh, free high five. Thank you.
No,
That is amazing.
the audience and Kyle are, hitting out of the park with the dad jokes today. So
yeah, it's been fun. And I was like, I couldn't guess any of these dad jokes. I'm pretty bad.
But imagine being in my position here where, the joke is like sent to me and I'm supposed to try to guess. It's a challenge.
What
That's
Art
my
is
biggest
really just
challenge of the
saying
day.
is imagine being me having to deal with Kyle for the next 3 hours.
Now that part's no big deal. Well,
So-
without further ado, Hassan, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody a little bit about yourself before Kyle tells another dad joke here.
Sounds great. I'm Hassan Kukar. I'm a senior sustainability architect, part of the sustainability engineering team. Our team focuses on building or is focusing on building a framework for your sustainability related needs. It's called Sustainability Insights Framework. That's what we are going to be talking about today.
All right. So I think a couple of people already have referenced the Sustainability Insights Framework, and I know I've had the pleasure of seeing aspects of it. And we'll talk a couple more times today, Hassan, about about SIF, as it's lovingly called. So let's get into it. Maybe the first thing you should do is define it for us. I mean, the Sustainability Insights Framework, but define kind of what it does and how it works.
Sure. So, sorry, I'm gonna share my wind screen here, but
Yeah.
we can just talk about as you asked, like what it is, what it does, and what it is. So it's a foundational building block to help accelerate design and implementation of customers' own sustainability-related workloads to automate calculating their carbon emissions. Our main target use case is carbon emissions and doing some carbon accounting, but our vision is far broader than that, which means that we want to eventually include a lot more sustainability use case within this foundational framework, which you can utilize to build on top of for many sustainability related use cases.
Okay. So maybe we could talk a little bit. I understand, why did we decide to do this? Maybe the first next step. Why did AWS decide to create this sustainability framework?
Right. So we saw trends that customers are increasingly demanding sustainable products. Policymakers have introduced enhanced climate disclosures regulations to enable low carbon economy. And sustainability has become an important indicator of employee engagement, retention, performance, and well-being. Also, investors are showing strong interest in sustainability performance and risk exposure to their assets to climate-related activities. Both consumers and organizations are looking to purchase greener products. So I have some statistics, and I was thinking to share my screen here. So let me see if I can share and see if
we might have the power and technology to be able to make that happen.
well, I'm trying my best here to see if this actually pops up as a visual that
I've found that if we stare harder at our screens or turning it off and on again, that also helps too.
All right, so I'm just gonna go through some facts here about some of the statistics we are looking at. So 85% of organizations are concerned about reducing their greenhouse gas emissions in order to reduce emissions. In order to reduce emissions, an organization has to be able to accurately measure their emissions in first place. Only 10% are able to measure their emissions completely. Overall, respondents estimated a 25 to 30% average error rate in their emission measurements. And 86% of companies are still trying to record and report their emissions manually using spreadsheet, which is time consuming and error prone. 87% of companies want to increase the scope of their reporting. When asked what are they lacking to enable this, one is time and budget, two is advanced tools and the access to emission factors. And 66% of respondents want to update their report yearly or more often. When asked what they are missing today to get to the next level, one is automated footprint calculation, and two is automated data ingestion and reporting pieces. So based on these issues and trends, we have decided to develop a framework which can serve as a foundational building block for your sustainability-related analysis and use cases.
So when we were, and actually someone in the chat asked, is it the sustainability framework? It's the Sustainability Insights Framework. That's the official name. And I believe that we've been doing, referencing the Sustainability Insights Framework throughout the last couple of segments that we've had. Now, you mentioned some pretty awesome statistics. What are some of the examples, like, for example, if we're looking at a software as a service partner, what are ways that we could see, are they being as sustainable as possible?
Right. So actually, I can share one example here of one of our partners who is building a SaaS application, which is which helps simplify carbon accounting and footprint analysis for large and small enterprises. So this customer has utilized SIF as a foundational building block for their SaaS application. So by utilizing SIF, they were able to cut down their development time considerably and accelerate timeline to launch their product. Now, there are features within SIF that you could utilize and build your integrations on top of, which targets your unique way of doing sustainability related or implementing those use cases that are unique to you or how you want to solve them. I mean, carbon accounting is a sort of a very broad strategy or like a term that we use, but how you actually perform the analysis and how do you actually implement those use cases could be unique to how you want to solve those challenges. So it doesn't stop you or dictate the way you should be doing them. It basically provides you those building blocks to then take and build your integrations or implementations on top of. So that's one example from a partner's point of view. And then there's another example that I can share is a customer who is an AWS customer, and they already have a data lake in their AWS environment. And the customer wanted to perform, or they are thinking to perform carbon accounting and footprint analysis at scale. And they need something which is flexible and can scale up as their needs grow. So this is actually an example that where our team worked with this customer to basically implement SIF within their environment, build that integration, which can actually be they can utilize the existing data lake data source as a data source, and to be able to perform these footprint analysis and carbon emissions related calculations within their environment.
Now, what were some of the features that the Sustainability Insights Framework has to help customers with these different journeys?
Awesome question. So within Sustainability Insights Framework, there are different modules that are catered to specific use cases. So first one is user access management. So manages organizational reporting boundaries, manages users, access roles, their access to different resources within the framework. So more of like an enterprise capability where you would want to allow who to see what, and how you can kind of arrange your business units in hierarchies and then define some reporting structure on it. Then we have emission factor management capability. So there's a module for managing emission factors. So it doesn't dictate which data source you should use. You can initialize your own. And we are sort of extending and playing with ideas here, which could let you initialize a specific data set, but we want to be agnostic of which actually you could use based on your own needs, because there are many different types of protocols and data sets that you could be using for your own, for your carbon accounting needs. Reference data sets is another one. You could have, so when you are performing these calculations, there could be a possibility where you need to do lookups or map data from one source to another. And we found out that this was a critical thing. Like if you were even doing this in Excel, you would maybe have a lookup function to actually say, well, key this here to to get that out. So to simplify that, we actually have a module called reference datasets. You can initialize your data set, and then that can be utilized in when you're defining your calculations or formulas. Then there is a module which can help you define your own custom calculations, which you can basically reuse throughout once you actually define a calculation, you can just reuse them wherever needed. Then there's a concept of metrics and KPIs. This is an interesting one, and specifically, like you can say one of the enterprise use cases that we have been dealing with is to aggregate data. And if you have a reporting structure which is hierarchical, like if you have like a main company and then some divisions and they're organized in different geos, you can calculate the emissions at the bottommost part of your hierarchy and then see it rolling up to that topmost part. And that topmost part will indicate the full footprint for you, but you can actually have that broken down view as well. So there's a lot of features related to that as well. Data pipeline process.
By doing that, you're able to break things down and make changes across different elements of your hierarchy, right? Something on different elements of the stack, and see how each of those elements had an impact on your carbon footprint.
Yeah, exactly. So just to elaborate on that part a little bit, let's say you are maybe a large enterprise, you have specific sites that you would want to calculate, let's say scope 1 emissions or scope 2. You can, once you actually have a pipeline which can transform the data for that site into an output, that's you get a visibility for that site. But then you can have an aggregation that can say, well, I want to now combine everything per region, and then I want to combine everything per at the topmost level, which is my root. So you can see the full thing, a full sort of chain of your sort of scope 1 and 2, however you're trying to group them.
Yeah. And I think just as a note, drawing back to our earlier conversation that Kyle and I had with Hillary, she helped define scope 1 through 4, albeit at a high level, but that kind of referencing back to, we did have a brief discussion about 1 through 4 earlier as well, and the importance of that. So,
and I know our moderators have been dropping links to learn more about the Sustainability Insights Framework in the various chats of LinkedIn and Twitch and all over the internet space. So, pardon me, if you want to learn more about the Sustainability Insights Framework that Hassan has been so graciously joining us to talk about, please feel free to take a look at those. And we do have a question from the chat before we go ahead and say goodbye to our friend. It's sad, but Hassan, can we know more insights on the carbon emissions from a data center per server or rack installed versus how these insights can help reduce the emissions and the rest? What are some of the remediation measures once the pain points are discovered? So I think the focus here is like, what are ways to address the problem once that problem is come to light?
Well, I think that to sort of like, not to go too deep into the question here, but I think at the top level, like high level, if you are already an AWS customer, I think there are mechanisms for you to report your or get insights into your consumption per instances if you're using. I think that's like a new feature that we have added. And if you are looking to calculate your data center related, if you are a data center operator, I think in that scenario, if you could start working backwards from what if you're consuming electricity, I think that would be the first thing to decide that, okay, can I actually create or calculate my footprint based on the activities that I am sort of like, performing. So like if you are consuming electricity, then you could start with that as like your baseline carbon calculation, but then you could sort of build on top of that.
And is there any ways we can learn more? Now, there's the skills builder and training and certification for AWS technologies. What about learning more about bringing sustainability in? And I think this addresses multiple questions here.
So I don't think there's an official learning path here for utilizing SIF, but the documentation and I think the API specification that we have within our framework could provide as a starting point for you to play around and see how the APIs work, how you can actually implement your own use cases on top. So I would say that would be a good starting point for now. And I think eventually in the future, we are going to have a learning path for this as well. And people can start to follow like, level 100, 200, 300, maybe videos, we are still in process of trying to develop that. And once we have, people can follow that more specifically. But for now, since this is an open source software, you are free to sort of clone it and then start using it, perform some API actions, and see how it can actually fit your needs.
I love the term open source here too. I think we've talked a little bit about that as well all day. So,
Yeah.
and I just want to say, Hassan, thank you for joining us today. This is really informative about SIF itself. For those who are out there joining us today, we're going to do some more examples actually with a customer using SIF. So we'll be able to feature both SIF and a little bit of how customers have taken advantage of that open source framework, something that those of you out there can also take advantage of too. So I really appreciate your time today. And thanks for joining us, Hassan.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Take care. Have a happy Earth Day and a wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Bye.